Hi, everybody. Welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Tommy, and today I'm joined by Eric and Dana.
Sammy Joe.
And just Dana.
And wearing my auntie.
Your auntie.
Auntie Crystal.
Beautiful.
If you haven't figured it out yet, we're discussing Dynasty Season 2, episodes 5 through 8. So I'll roll the credits and we'll get right into it. Okay, so episode 5 is titled Reconciliation, and totally forgot where we're at. I'm like, why is he in the hospital? What happened? Watch too many soaps, damn it.
we need recaps on these, like in the beginning, like previously on Dynasty.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
But once I started seeing Alexis act a fool, I was like, oh, right.
And in the credits, Heather Locklear joins the cast.
She did. Finally. So where do we begin? So Steven's kind of in a coma-ish. A coma light.
He banged his head real bad on the swimming pool. Yeah, he was desperately running away from Blake.
Yes.
And he tripped and fell into the pool, hitting his head.
Right. And that's when Nick did CPR and was checking his pulse on his Adam's apple.
Nick is the worst doctor there's ever been.
And they call him for everything. They call him for surgery, for mental health.
I think that's what they did back then. Though, unfortunately. Like, he's probably was a good doctor, but you don't do that anymore. All of those practices. I'm serious. That's how they did it. If you watch soaps back then, you see a lot. They like shake you and like get over it. Like it's happened. Like that's what they do.
Yeah, like
it is.
People who overdosed across the room back and forth.
Ask Karen. We watched the General Hospital episode recently, and the one lady, Emma Sam's character Holly, lost her baby, and they like the next day they're like, "Get over it! Like, what are you doing? Get over it! Get out! Do something!" We're like, "You lost a baby, dude. Give her a minute."
Oh my God, I can't.
Alexis is taking advantage of the situation as a way to get in with Blake. She's playing the, overprotective, emotional mother.
Oh, Blake, do you think you'll be okay?
Dramatically hugging him, like grabbing him.
I love
very dramatic.
I love the scene where Blake's talking to Crystal, trying to get her to like go home, and she comes out. It's like, "Oh, you're here, Blake. You must be in the room with me at all times with your son, with our son, our son."
Right, like, our son.
Yes,
our son. Remember we had sex. Remember
that? So he ends up waking up, and the first thing he says was she was looking for a rainbow, which is what she told him when she left town years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
400 years ago.
So he remembers who people are, but he has a trouble with names and like what happens. But he's aware of who he is and where he is. He doesn't remember the pool. He doesn't remember the accident at first. But I laughed because at one point he just like blurted out to Alexis, "Does Fallon know who her father is? Or does she know she's not Blake's daughter?" That's what she said. That's what he said. I was like, "You remember that?"
It's like he had like short-term amnesia, like in the beginning, because he couldn't really recognize Crystal at some point. Like he comes home from the hospital, everybody's like saying hi to him, and he couldn't remember her name, but he like remembered her, but couldn't remember her name.
There is a term for that amnesia, but I can't remember what it's called. But it's been used many times as a soap device.
Yeah.
So I have random weird notes. One of them is Nick in a velour tracksuit at the hospital.
Yeah.
My next is Nick takes Crystal to get coffee at a restaurant, and I'm like, were coffee houses not a thing? Was that like a 90s thing that coffee houses started to come around?
Well, they had cafes, I think, mainly in the 80s. They
They
never
went to like
called
a
them
sit
that.
down restaurant to get
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, I guess we should talk about Sammy Joe.
Okay.
So she's the daughter of Crystal's sister and this race car driver who has a new girlfriend. The mother apparently died when she was young.
Mm-hmm.
Sammy Joe's kind of a tomboy. She's into racing. She wears very skimpy clothes though.
Yeah.
She's got the body for it, so
Get it, girl.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I had that body, hell yeah.
Right?
they find out that Crystal's married to a rich guy because of the trial, I think, was being televised, or maybe it was Steven's accident. They saw him on the news for some reason.
It was Steven's accident because he was coming home and they like were recording him leaving the hospital, like the paparazzi, I guess.
Oh.
And they're like, "That's Crystal!" Like they saw her like with him in the car.
Was it me, or do a lot of Heather Locklear's lines seem like they're 80 yard? Like I feel like they don't sound like they're coming out of her mouth.
when they filmed things back then, because it was like outdoors, a lot of times they had problems with noises in the background, so they did do voiceover stuff in a lot of old series, 70s and 80s. So they would say it like outside, and if they didn't get it, they would have you say it like on a recorder in a studio or something.
Right.
So that's probably why it looks like that.
Probably, because that makes sense, because a lot of those scenes were outside.
Yeah, the outside stuff.
So the dad's girlfriend doesn't want her around. I don't know if she's jealous of her. But so he decides to pay Crystal a visit and says, "Oh, she wants to see her auntie. She wants to get to know her."
Yeah.
She talks about you all the time.
It feels like very convenient that all of a sudden they're very interested in seeing Crystal as soon as they saw who she was married to or in like company of on TV.
Right.
It felt very convenient.
It was odd for me to see Sammy Joe so innocent, because I'm like, this is not the Sammy Joe I remember.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I didn't know it because like this is a rewatch for both of us, so you're kind of like sitting. Well, for all of us. I mean, so I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, what happened to her? Because if this is like her, is this put on, or like, is this who she was, and she gets turned into who she becomes because of the Karen kind of situation.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. I think she knows what it. So she's getting the taste of the life now. So yeah, she kind of turns into.
Kind of get that a little bit in the later episodes of the set. Like you're like starting to put together like, okay, like she's got reasons now to want to like be here versus like where she was. But she really was very innocent. Like just kind of like, yeah, let's go. Like legitimately into cars, only wanted anything to do guys and cars, and that's it.
She didn't even want to see Crystal. She was like, "Why does she want to see me? I don't even know her." It was like totally opposite of what he told Crystal.
Yeah.
She's like, "I just want to go with you, Daddy." She was like crying, and I'm like, "I don't remember this naive Sammy Joe."
Yeah.
I was like,
she started out in
money definitely changed her. I mean, you can kind of see little glimmers of the beginnings of that, because when she arrives, Crystal's not there, and Joseph shows her to her room, and she immediately is just like laying across all the furniture. She's like the mirror and the glass. What is it called? With the lights and everything.
Chandelier.
The vanity mirror. The vanity mirror.
Oh, vanity.
Yeah. So you could kind of see she could easily fall into this lifestyle if she wanted to.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it was with Alexis. Oh, she thinks Alexis is Crystal. I laugh. She's like,
that was funny.
Hysterical because it's like, girl, that woman has a British accent. Why would you say Crystal?
Yeah, but
Alexa's
she's not the brightest.
No. Like, I'm definitely not Crystal.
Sammy Jo's not the brightest, but she becomes the brightest soon enough. Probably
I
not in
don't
this
know.
season.
I agree with that, Eric. I think she's still just as dumb. She just is mean.
No, she becomes smarter because she learns how to blackmail and stuff, and she can do some things. That's smart to me.
Yeah, she gets smarter, but still not the smartest.
Right, I'm not the smartest, but you know.
Yeah.
Nick is counseling Claudia, who really doesn't want to talk to him about anything. She just wants.
Does anybody want to talk to him?
I don't.
Not really.
He gives off the Scarface Godfather vibe. Like, he looks like he belongs in one of those movies.
He does. He does.
He's like yelling therapy at her all the time. Like, he's like, get better. What do you mean? Why are you still? Like, who cares if your kid is somewhere in South America? Just be good.
I almost can't tell if he's seriously saying this or if he's just trying to like do like reverse psychology and like get her angry and like.
He is trying to get feelings out, which is why he does do that. But at the same time, I feel like that's not a good way to do it. Could be wrong.
Alexis hires a private investigator to explore Crystal's past.
Mr. Hess, who hangs around for a very long time.
She like talks to Sammy Jo for information about her. She's like, "Oh yeah, what was her name? What did you guys say? Huh, that's really cool." Very
Sammy Jo's just like running her mouth, like la la la.
Oh, yeah. This is her address. This is my social security number.
When I think it was Joseph. Joseph seems to kind of like Sammy Jo when she was like jumping around the room, or whatever. He kind of had like a smirk on his face, and I was like, I wonder if this is why they did that in the reboot where they kind of were close.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think he's the one that told her that they get dressed up for dinner, and she came down with those like bright pants on.
Yeah.
And I made note because she wore them in another episode, and I was like, Sammy Jo only has one pair of pants.
She does. And she wanted like pizza. She's like, "Can I get pizza delivered up here?" Or
And he's like, "We don't eat pizza."
Like, we don't know what that is.
Dinner is served at like 7, so like whenever you show up, that's when and that's not pizza.
Yeah.
Cecil wants Blake to repay the $2 million that he loaned him, and he offers to call off the debt in exchange for Blake's football team, which is worth $20 million.
Yeah.
And Blake refuses, and he says he'll somehow produce the cash. I don't know how he's doing that, and he's buying. Well, that's later on. I'm skipping too far ahead.
Well, he does ultimately. He sells like stake in his football club to a gangster for the most part. Like, he's not a good guy.
Yeah. Where was I? Oh, right. So I put Nick has a flashback of a man hanging, and we don't know who that is at first. We find out in the next episode. Which, do you guys have anything else to add about reconciliation?
Oh, Dean, was it the same episode where Sammy Jo she doesn't meet Steven yet, right? That's the next one.
Yeah, that's the next one, I think.
Yeah, and then
together,
and then she crawls into bed because she's afraid of the thunder.
Yeah.
Well, we have when Alexis does call Mr. Hess, she says, "Find out everything you can about Crystal Grant."
Yeah.
So she's definitely looking into Crystal's past. I think. And then we had Fallon as that flapper. She dressed as the flapper and put on a show for Steven. That was amusing.
Yeah, Joseph was like helping, and then he was over it after like a minute. He's like, "All right, I'm done." And he just like left.
It was a cute moment.
Yeah, Steven basically comes home, and like there's still beef between Alexis and him about Fallon's parentage, and even Alexis and Crystal have a little like spat because Alexis is like, I'm his mother. I'm gonna be the one who takes care of him. Don't give her like you don't need a nurse. You don't need your flowers. I didn't get them from God. Like that whole little like again power struggle between the two of them. Like Alexis just won't go away.
Yeah.
Steven gets agitated because he can't remember Crystal's name at first.
No.
So then Alexis is like, "You're upsetting him," and she's like, "He only needs his family, and that's not you."
Yeah, exactly.
He's a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
So something that happened rather quickly is the whole connection between Nick and Fallon.
Mm.
I
didn't remember it happening this quickly.
Right. Well, Fallon like literally throws herself at him, and then he is also desperately trying to get with Crystal. It's like impossible to like their little coffee meeting, and it was just him laying it on extra thick for her. Like, hey, like, I think you're great. Why are you with Blake? And then Fallon was just trying to escape Jeff any means necessary, and she just happened to bump into him, while he's taking care of Steven, and she's like, "Oh, hey." And then immediately goes to his house and just shows up. Says, "Hey, what's up?"
Climbs through his window.
Yeah.
We see Nick's sister came to visit him, and that's how we found out that in the flashback it was his brother that was hanging. He blames Blake for some reason.
It's his half brother, isn't it? They're like half siblings, I thought they said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they said they had different mothers.
Yeah, something like that.
He spit it out quickly. I remember him making a point of saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he said something like if Blake had just made that call, that never would have happened. Like, I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, I remember this.
You do?
Yeah. Because you see that hanging like every episode, I feel like, until the finale.
Oh, really?
I remember it being around a lot.
I have Steven's amnesia. I blocked it out.
Yeah.
As Nick gets more entrenched with everything, because he starts to get more obsessed with Crystal, like, and he's all knee deep in with Fallon. Fallon gets obsessed with him. Like, it starts to become more apparent, like he's there to do something, and something has to do with Blake. And you don't know why Blake could have done anything about it. You don't even know like what the situation was right now, anyway. And he's just obsessed with getting like he left New York like a very good practice to come to Denver to work as a doctor for hire for Blake somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
So in order to save his football team, Blake goes to Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. And this is where he gets the loan from the gangster that you guys mentioned, Logan Rottenwood.
And Fallon shows up on the plane.
Yeah. She like goes away. She like hides in the closet or something. Comes out while he's like mid-flight. Yep. Again, to escape Jeff. Like she just wants to be away from Jeff. She doesn't want
You are correct.
Yeah.
She wants nothing to do with him. She could care less about him. And she doesn't want to be mean, that's why she's staying away.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel her pain.
Sammy Jo is afraid of the thunder and lightning, so she like sneaks into Steven's room, can't get him to wake up, and she just slips into bed with him. And is this when Alexis sees her, or does that happen once? And Alexis makes a point of telling Crystal she saw her niece sneaking into Steven's room in the middle of the night.
Keep your trashy niece away from my boy.
I can't remember. Does she confront Sammy? She confronts everyone essentially. Like she does talk. Doesn't she talk to Sammy Joe, and then talk to Steven, and then talk or Crystal, and then talk to Blake? Like she said, like literally says it to everybody she can. It's like get in
Anyone
here.
that'll listen. Yep.
Yeah.
I think this is the episode where Steven confesses to Claudia that he loves her and wants to marry her, and she's like, "I love Matthew." She like pushes him off, and it's like, "I love Matthew. I still want to be with him."
Whatever.
Yeah, I think that's the next episode, but yes, that does happen. It's really
okay. Yeah. So Fallon ends up making love with Nick. I know how Eric hates when I say making love. He's like, they banged.
Whoopee. They
banged. They banged. They're not making love. They don't love each other.
She's obsessed with him. Like, there's something about Nick that like really intrigues Fallon because he's smart and like he kind of doesn't take her for like face value like Jeff does. She can easily manipulate Jeff. She like just lies and lies and lies to Jeff, and Jeff just goes. Especially in the beginning, he was like, but Nick's like, yeah, okay, you're obvious. He like calls her out for what she's doing at the time, and that gets her going even more. So
she has a thing for daddy.
Oh.
So was Alexis hunting or was she skeet shooting again?
She was skeet shooting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's left on her own because she says she can handle it. And she's a bitch. She did this on purpose. She saw Crystal on the horse, and Crystal's pregnant. If the reminder to the listener, she's pregnant. And she purposely shot that gun so that the horse would be scared.
Well, we have to start out first that Crystal told Alexis in this episode that she's pregnant. And Alexis's face was just like not for long.
Yeah, right.
Pregnant, really.
I feel like this incident soured Alexis for me for a while because I couldn't believe that she could be that evil.
Yeah, it was fucked up.
Yeah.
And
she's not even sorry. She doesn't even feel guilty about it.
Nope, not even a little bit. In fact, she wants to rub salt in the wound. Here, I brought a gift for the baby. Can I see Crystal? And then she wants to see Crystal after that, and nobody lets her, which is good. Yeah. Even Joseph gets protective of Crystal at this point.
Maybe that's why I started to like Joseph, and that's why I'm like, I don't remember him being a dick because I liked him.
Same, because I'm like, good, he kept that bitch away from her. Like, it's fucked up.
Yeah, like I feel like Alexis right now, this moment is very like down. Like she doesn't have all the power she's hoping for, and she's desperate. So like opportunistic, I would say. I wouldn't say she like plotted to do this, but like because she saw Crystal just like plopping along, you know?
Yeah.
She's like, well, how are you gonna pass up this opportunity?
Right.
To, right? I mean, like that. It felt very opportunistic. Like I don't think she
for sure. Right.
This.
She wasn't. Yeah. She wasn't going out trying to do it. Yeah.
Right. She wasn't like, I'm gonna go skeet shooting and then I'm gonna shoot at this horse by accident. You know.
They recreated the scene, right, for the reboot. I feel like they did.
Yeah, they did. They did a similar thing in the first season, I believe.
Oh. Okay.
I remember them, not to get too far ahead, but Crystal's ex-husband ends up showing up at some point in the reboot. He was literally in one episode for like a couple of scenes, and they killed him right off. I was like, oh wow, they were not writing for that character.
That's the same. Yeah, same goes for like Claudia and Matthew. They weren't around too long either.
Right, like was more prominent, I would say, like in the reboot, and Claudia was so much more unhinged in the reboot than she is now. In and out. But that's why I didn't realize I was in love with Claudia so much until I started watching the original, because I was like, oh, she's amazing. Why didn't they have her in the reboot?
Yeah, they could have used her a lot, but they didn't.
So Crystal didn't have the miscarriage right away. She was dragged by that horse, which I didn't remember. I thought she just like fell off the horse, but she was literally dragged across the property.
It was violent. Like, how violent the scene really was for her. Like
Mhm.
She was knocked off, literally dragged by the horse. She could have died. The horse could have stomped her to death, really, like, if she wasn't careful. And then she was left out for however long.
Mhm.
Because, like, Nick found her because he saw the horse she was riding on. And, of course, he's obsessed with her. So yeah.
But, I think at first she says she feels fine, so she doesn't have the miscarriage right away. It's not till the next episode where she starts to have the pain.
Yeah.
She's rushed to the hospital.
Yeah, I think it cliffhangers into her having pains and then into the next episode,
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's also told that she can't have children ever again, like, that she shouldn't try because there was, like, an abnormality there, I got it out, in her uterus. And at first, he's like, you should have knew that or just told her that, and he's like, you wouldn't have seen that in a regular exam. So
yeah, gotta love Blake blaming doctors for doing their jobs.
Yeah.
Know everything about the human body because it's all once.
Steven and Sammy Joe go to a racetrack. I guess she didn't really live that far from Crystal. Maybe an hour or two.
Unless like really quickly with the local race scene in some way.
Yeah, I think it's the local race scene. I don't think it was like where she came from.
Oh, I thought these were like her friends.
I didn't think so. No, because aren't they fighting with them? They're fighting with a couple of them.
Yeah, but I thought that was just guys like being guys and like puffing their chests out and testosterone.
No, I don't think they really knew them. I just think they went like that was the local scene for them.
Oh, okay.
So is Sammy Joe supposed to be like the same age as Steven and Fallon?
No,
probably.
She's 18.
Oh, is she 18?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
She's young. She's supposed to be younger, like by a handful of years or so, right?
Yes. Because I would assume that Steven and Fallon at least have college degrees.
Right.
So they have to be in their 20s.
Mid to late 20s.
Yeah, okay. I was trying to figure out like what, like, because it felt like, well, Heather Locklear's so young in general. So like I was thinking, I'm like, how young is she to like? Is this appropriate? Probably, but like she's at least a teenager, like an adult teenager at least, like 18 plus.
So Eric had texted me that he spotted an actress from Santa Barbara that we're currently watching. And I totally forgot that he texted me that until I heard her voice, and then it clicked, and I was like, "That's Santana."
Yeah.
She literally was just like an extra. She got her SAG card maybe doing this part because she like I was like, "Oh my god, it's her."
I saw her. She had dark hair in that too, and I was like, "Oh, that's Santana."
So what else? Oh, so this was the episode where I was like, Sammy Joe has one pair of pants because she was wearing those bright pants, and only this time with like a sweater with a belt around it.
Right.
So I guess Steven gets a rush from racing even though he didn't win. And she's like making out with him. Sammy Joe's making out with him, and the guy's like, "Why are you kissing him? You lost." And I believe it was this scene that he was like, I love you." I'm like, "You love her?"
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't. You love Claudia.
Oh,
well, you know, he still has some brain damage, you know.
I don't know.
True.
He does. I mean, he's still fresh out of that, and he just like you said, he got a rush, and he was like, "I love you," and he just wanted to bang somebody. I think.
Yeah, he took her back to the cabin that he took Claudia to, and I was like, "How dare you!"
Like this.
That was your cabin with Claudia.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the moment I'm talking about, like when they're in the cabin and then she's like, "Okay, let's do this thing," and he's like, "Wait a minute." It's like, is it like legitimate? Well, obviously it has to do with Claudia. We find out later, but like, is this the moment where she kind of goes, "I'm getting rejected. I must take out my revenge on this family," and then proceeds to do the worst thing she can think of with them? Or is it like, this is my chance to be in the family and I'm losing it? Like, the disappointment on her face was severe, like as if someone stabbed her in the heart. They barely know each other.
Right.
Like, it's very like over the top to be that upset about him not wanting to like go further to me. So I was like,
well, they had a
like
conversation later on where he says he doesn't want this to affect her, and he wants her to like basically still have self-esteem and like she could have anything she wants out of life. But in that scene, she actually made a point of saying she's been with other guys.
Right.
So maybe she just is not used to being rejected by a guy.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I was like, this can't be it. Like, this can't be the only reason why she kind of goes a little off the rails, like later on down the line. Like, because, or like when she was talking to Fallon, saying it is really great to be a girl in this family, like, and those are the kinds of lines when you're like, oh, is this where it's kind of like connecting to be like her obsession with trying to be a part of the Carrington family specifically for the benefits, for the cars, for the this, for the
right.
Yeah.
So you were right. This is the episode where Steven tells Claudia that he loves her. He's like, I was with another woman, but I didn't sleep with her because I was thinking about you. And she's like, I want my daughter back. I don't care about you. Like,
I have other fish to fry.
Yeah, the moment he came in and he's just kind of like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And she's like, "Sure." And then he goes like, "Well, I was with another woman," and she just stood there going like, "Okay." Like, I don't know why about this. I don't know. It was I just laughed. I scoffed. I was like, "Poor Steven. He just wants to love this woman," and she's like, "Nah."
I know.
So my takeaway is that Steven doesn't really remember the trial and like why him and his father were like not speaking, and nobody's telling him. And Blake just wants to take this as like an opportunity to just move forward and forget about it. Like it never happened.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I think obviously he has some inclination because a lot of the conversations between the two of them were like saying, like, you told me you want me to be with women, so I'm being with a woman. What do you want from me? Like, and they're like, well, it's not the right kind of woman, and it's like,
right. He basically, yeah.
Like, you weren't specific enough. Like, how was I supposed to know?
Well, that's what he said.
You were angry at me for putting my hands on a man. He's like, now I'm putting my hands on a woman, and you're still not happy.
Right, and he says I can't win with you, can I, Dad? Like at one point, but he can't.
I felt that. Like, I legitimately felt that. I'm like, it's never gonna be enough. Like, he can't be enough. That's more the reason. It had nothing to do with being gay or who he's with. It's because like he just doesn't live up to Blake's expectations for one reason or another. And it could be anyone.
Meanwhile, Fallon does, and he doesn't even think of her for anything in the business.
Yeah, cause like how he was about her being there for the Las Vegas deal. Like he was giving her such a hard time. I don't need you here. She like literally solidified it for him that whole time.
Yep.
Jeff quits Colby Co. I guess in solidarity with Blake and his in-laws.
Yeah.
Explain that to me, because I was confused. Like, why is Jeff leaving Colby Co? Like, what did Cecil do? Because he called in the deal, like he called in the loan. Is that what it was? Or
that's
like,
what I thought was the reason. I didn't really understand, because I don't know, because he cares about Fallon more than Fallon cares about him.
Literally.
Which is why I think I always like Jeff.
I think that is why he goes off on him, because of what his part in Fallon, like getting Fallon to marry him, type thing, and he's mad about it because Fallon's ignoring him.
Right. I forgot. Yes.
And Fallon doesn't want him, and that's
right.
Yeah.
Fallon and Nick.
And literally.
Good.
Good.
No, Fallon and Nick end up sleeping together. And she comes home still in the dress from the night before, and her mother's like, "Oh, I've had nights like that." She's like, "Can I get you some coffee, even if it's as foul as the coffee I have?"
Yeah, that was funny.
And she's like, "You're right, it is foul."
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, and he was pretty rich coming from freaking Alexis to tell Fallon what to do about her marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason why Fallon's even in the marriage was to help Blake get that loan to begin with. And now that the deal's done, it's kind of like, I need to get the fuck out of here, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Andrew Layard comes back from Washington with news that there's more trouble with the Middle East oil leases. And I think this is when they first mention what's his name?
Rashid Ahmed.
Rashid, yes. Who I didn't realize, or I forgot, is played by the actor that plays Tony on Falcon Crest.
John Saxon.
And he's
awesome.
dad from A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yep.
That's the first time I met him, was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Same here. Yep. Nancy's dad. Who didn't listen to her. She's screaming through the window and he's looking up at her like, my daughter's fine. Just going a little crazy.
So Alexis hears this conversation between Andrew and Blake, and she makes a phone call to find out where he is so she can meet up with him in the Middle East.
Who do you think she called? Mr. Hess. Mr. Hess, he does it all.
So yeah, Alexis is a hoe, for sure.
We got to point out that Claudia wants a job with Blake too. She's talking about like working for him because he's been so good for her.
Okay, so Claudia was at lunch with Cecil, and I'm like, what is happening? I was like, this was a housewife that just got out of like a mental hospital. Why is she having lunches with these high-powered men, and why do they care about her?
She's beautiful.
She is. She's a beautiful lady.
I still don't understand why Blake is taking care of her, honestly. I know you guys have explained it to me, but it's not clicking for me.
It makes total sense for me. It makes total sense.
It does me too. I mean, like, Blake quite literally, because he was on a friggin' murder trial, put Claudia's life on blast. Like, literally blew up her life for the sake of getting him off on murder charges. That was the deal. Like, that's why she testified. And he feels bad because Matthew left and kidnapped her kid. Like, I still think Matthew kidnapped her kid. I don't know why police aren't trying to bring him back. I don't give a shit that she's her father, you know, the father of the girl, but he kidnapped her. That's true. But it's like, he's also helping Claudia find Matthew, and she wants to be in the business so she can be closer to that information. And then Cecil's kind of like, hey, you're a real pretty lady. You want to have a feeling?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know why Claudia was like, okay, because Cecil is not good looking. Like, to me, he's not good to get her with. And but she gets something out of the deal. She gets more people on looking for Matthew. So hey, girl, get that. She's one guy.
And Cecil was nice to her. You know, like, there was no good reason, so she's like, "Sure, I'll have dinner with you. Why not?" And it worked out for her.
The only thing I can rationalize with Cecil being interested in her is because Blake is, and he wants to always have an upper hand on Blake.
Which is also true.
Like, who's this girl? Why is she staying with him? How can I use her to my advantage?
Yeah, he could be doing something like that, but
that's definitely Cecil.
I'm not sure he's doing that though.
Yeah.
What's that?
I think it's opportunities. Like, it's the same thing with Alexis. Like, if the opportunity presents itself, oh, there's a very pretty woman. Oh, she happens to also be living at the mansion. You know, and if there's a way I could also have books in her too, for whatever reason, because she has access, you know, all the better, right? So
yeah.
So Alexis goes to Rome to meet with Rashid Ahmed, and he thinks that she just wants to talk business, and she's like, we'll talk tomorrow. Tonight they're gonna bang. She needs to give him incentive to agree to what she wants.
Yeah.
I need a good time. So I'm very jet lagged from my trip.
Crystal is still having, I guess, like postpartum from her miscarriage. And everybody's like really frustrated with her that she's like not snapping out of it. I'm like, I understand it was the 80s and men didn't talk about women problems back then, but like they were being really rough with her, like emotionally, verbally.
I felt
like,
bad
snap out of it. You should be fine already. Like, you don't know what her emotional state is. Like,
I felt bad for Blake in this situation because like he did try like everything and he's like, there's nothing I can do. And then he's just like, he's gonna go away. And then she's like, don't go. And he's like, I can't do anything for you. Like, well, come on, lady. I'm trying.
Yeah.
I never feel bad for Blake.
Well, I do.
Because of what he did to her in season 1.
Well, unfortunately, she loves them, so I have to care a little bit.
He thought buying her a necklace was going to make her get over the fact that she had a miscarriage. Get the fuck out of here.
The whole, well, yeah, but the whole point of them together for me is like she makes him better, like through the years, like together, and that's what I like about their chemistry.
Yeah. The one thing I would have wanted to see, like, from him was like, okay, he tried acts of service. He tried to talk to her about her feelings. He gave her a gift. But like I would have loved if he just said, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna lay here with you. I just want to be near you. And whenever you're ready to talk, I'm gonna be here in bed. We could like do something here together. I just want to be with you. If he would have said any of that instead of just getting frustrated with the fact that she couldn't articulate what her feelings were and then just decided to leave, that's kind of where I got lost. Because I was with you, Eric, on like he's saying like, I'm here for you. And she's like, no. And then like, but
no.
You're shutting down. So like, why not just be there? Don't have to talk. Just be there physically. Just physically be to her when she needs you. And that's it. He's rich enough. He could take the day off. But Blake's company is above everything. Like not just even himself. You know, so.
Yeah, exactly. I pretty much, that's how I felt. Like he could just sit with her, you know, maybe ask her, do you want to go for a walk? She might like get some fresh air. Maybe that'll help her a little bit.
There's not enough time in 48 minutes for them to just lay around.
Well, it's have
to get things going. They gotta get things moving.
The writers need us to
snap out of it.
So I guess she realizes that everybody's getting frustrated with her and she tries to make steps towards acting normal again. So she comes down for dinner. She wears the necklace that he gave her. And
this was fucked up.
Oh my god, Fallon.
I was pissed.
Fallon. She's just like, oh yeah, you got a Royal. How come I can't say the name of the car? Rolls Royce.
I didn't know what was happening.
And you got a necklace for losing it. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And that would have been a nice night if that bitch wasn't around.
And Fallon knew she fucked up because she went, oops, like she was like, I'm sorry, like she immediately like said it was like, oh fuck. Like,
right. Now has Fallon and Crystal solidified the relationship at all, or is Fallon still like vying for Blake's attention, like using her as like competition, seeing her as competition still, right? Like Fallon and Crystal having like
they haven't really made waves, but I don't think Fallon would purpose, like she did probably say that on accident, although she should have gone up to apologize immediately, like Jeff said, but like she was like, no, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm gonna go fuck my man on the side tonight.
It's funny that you bring that up because when she got the car, I actually did have the thought because Fallon rolled up in her car and made a comment, and Blake was like, don't let her bother you or whatever. And she's like, I don't. And I was like, oh, I remember them kind of being friends, like it later on. And I was like, is this the beginnings of them kind of just having that rapport with each other, but they actually care about each other now?
Yeah.
Come together, like, because even when she went to go visit her at the hospital and then bumped into Nick again, like, so they could have a little whatever, you know, we don't even get a scene of her like trying to comfort Crystal or anything. Like Fallon's like super focused on her own bullshit going on, but like, I sometimes I wonder, like, yes, Fallon is absent-minded. She just blah, 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 blah. But a part of me is kind of like she's still trying to dig at Crystal, like kind of like turning the knife a little bit, like saying like, haha, I win. Like, you know, now you won't be you have his baby, you know, or I won't have to have a revenge baby, like so have his grandkid, just be better than Crystal, you know. So I was hoping that really wasn't what it was, but who knows?
Well, speaking of baby,
Fallon said she's pregnant.
And she doesn't want to keep it. So it's like, I guess she doesn't really care then at that point. You know, like
because Crystal doesn't have a baby now. Like I feel like if Crystal was still pregnant, I would imagine Fallon would be
she
like,
would
hell
try
yeah,
to keep
let's
it.
have right. But like doesn't. Like the only reason why she was even trying to have a family is because she was trying to compete with Crystal. Like Crystal somehow got a one up on her because she's pregnant with Blake's kid, and now Fallon wanted Blake's child, and now that there's no baby, why would she want to be a mother? She's like, I'll be a terrible mother. Like, you've been a terrible mother no matter what. Like Jesus Christ.
Tommy, did you notice when they Alexis got to Italy, who chauffeured her in?
No.
It was Larry Welch.
Was it?
The Italian guy. I thought you'd foresee it because they zoomed in on his face, and I'm like, oh, I probably know who it is.
No, I recognized him when he was on Falcon Crest, but I didn't recognize him on this.
That was him, and he had like that fake Italian accent.
Maybe that threw me off because I didn't the accent.
It's so funny. Yep, that was him. He popped up in all the
he was trying to get with Alexis too. He was like,
so sometimes I have trouble figuring out if Alexis is in a wig or not. I'm always like, is that a wig or is that her real hair?
I can tell you. It was mostly a wig, except for the time she was talking to Fallon with the coffee. That was definitely her real hair. There was another moment where her hair was down when she was talking to Blake about Steven in the library. That was also her real hair, but everything else was a wig. Like the minute, because you could tell by the fullness of her bang. If her bang is particularly full, total wig. If it's like lighter, like a little bit lighter across, definitely her real hair.
She gets good wigs because I like their hair in Italy a lot, and she's got good wigs.
That was I think that's what I'm thinking about because I was like, I wonder if that's a wig because I felt like it looked like it was down close to the scalp, and I was like, okay, I was like maybe that's not a wig because I felt like you would see a bump if she had it up somehow.
Yeah.
Well, do you think it's add-ons? Do you think it's add-ons in some scenes, or do you think it's all wig?
There could be like some toppers that maybe she puts like front clips to kind of give her more volume on, like I said, on the front. In the 80s, they used to curl the bang out like to this far and then come down. So like in this scene where she's in the library with Blake, she's wearing that red number with like the beautiful gold, like big beaded necklace. And she's talking about how like Sammy Joe's a tart and that Steven shouldn't be with her and it's disgusting. Her bangs are so light, but you could see like her hairline like underneath of it because it's so thin. Like where you could see the hair kind of goes like this, you know?
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, be her natural hair. And there's possible like clip-ins in the back to give her more volume like around her head. But then when we see her in Rome where she's with Rashid and she's wearing the same hairstyle, but it's way significantly thicker. Like her bang, you don't even see her forehead through it. And I'm like, that's definitely big. And like the best way to tell is try to look at the part where the scalp comes between, because in the 80s they didn't really have a lot of lace fronts at the time. Like you see the scalp. So like where there is no scalp, that's definitely a wig.
Okay. I'll have to pay more attention to that.
Yeah. I tried to, but I guess
having her hairline.
Yeah. Like I can do Dayna's wig count of the episode. Like so in episode 5, there was
wig number 1, wig number 3.
Yeah. Because there was like a couple episodes in season 5 when the other things happen, and I kept saying like that is a different wig from a different time. Like and then they have different scenes where it's specifically the styled wig, but it's in different colors. It's so funny.
It is.
So Fallon's pregnant. she tries to like have a nice divorce with Jeff. She was just like, she's like, I have all this anger against you, and he admits that he knew that he was in love with her, but she wasn't in love with him. And she's like, so let's just like get divorced now, like, and we can still be friends.
So she's like, you divorce me, or I'll divorce you. Whatever you want, whatever you like. The divorce choice is yours.
Oh, but rewinding a little bit. So she had a doctor's appointment, and that's when she found out she was pregnant. And so she wanted to know, I guess, her options with the doctor, but then they like cut away from the conversation. And I was like, okay, were they trying to allude that she's gonna have an abortion, but they weren't allowed to say abortion? But then they said it later on in the episode.
Yeah, I guess we didn't really know what she was going to ask the doctor, and they kind of wanted you to like wonder, I guess.
So I guess she scheduled one.
What?
But not before sleeping with Nick one more time while pregnant.
Of course.
That's
why she told Nick everything.
I don't remember her sleeping with Jeff at all. How do you know it's Jeff's baby? Like, I feel like it's Nick's baby.
Yeah, well, I guess because they didn't show it. But...
Yeah, I was thinking like it was probably like from the time, like it's like that's the thing about the time frames from each episode, because it makes you think like, oh, that has to have been like a couple days or a week or a month or something like that in between. And I think in the like couple episodes prior, they were talking about having a baby. Maybe that's what it's from.
Oh,
and when she, like so if you think about it, 30 days later, or like she misses her period, and she kind of freaking out because you could tell there was a couple moments like in Fallon where she's having like these, like right before she makes a call, she's kind of like worried, like thinking about something that's worrying her, and then she makes a phone call with the doctor. You're kind of like, she's trying to find out if she's pregnant because she hasn't had her period.
Did they sleep together at the hotel? Remember when they got the hotel room?
The motel? Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
So it was like that, or like there was another moment where like she was being nice to him, and then they had sex, and then I don't.
So
that's
a couple
the whole thing.
times.
Like, like I don't know how long it was between then and when we met Nick, because that's the next time we've noticed her.
Well, I did make note about in the beginning of the last episode we watched, the Mideast meeting, that Joseph said that Crystal's been depressed for weeks. So she's so it's been a bunch of weeks in between these, I guess, soap wise.
Right.
Instead of like the next day or anything.
Right. So it makes sense that maybe it's possible that they definitely had sex at least the last time, like beforehand.
Right.
Nick tells her that he was married before and she got pregnant, and that they both died during childbirth. I don't know if this is to push her to get the abortion.
To not, I think. It's more like he's always really pushing Fallon to reconcile with Jeff. He keeps telling her, like, I'm not going to be in love with you. I'm actually in love with Crystal right now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get and you're just like a physical thing. Like he keeps saying like an unexpected pleasure. He keeps telling her like, this is just fun for me. I'm not getting in deep. And Fallon's like, I'm obsessed with you. I wouldn't change my whole life for you.
She's like, I'm going to take care of it. She's like, this is my problem. I'm going to take care of it on my own. I'll figure things out. And then when I come back to you, I'm going to ask you to marry me. And then you can make your decision. I'm like, what? What?
It's unhinged. This was super. When the first time I saw like this whole play out, I was really disappointed in Fallon, like as a character, because from the reboot, this would have never been. You would never see Fallon from the reboot ever be this like meek and like subservient to a man she just met. Never. No way. It's not legal. It ain't nothing. You know what I mean? Like not even with Mike even like do anything like that. So it was just kind of like, who is this woman? And I'm not
Side note, every so often I will watch clips from the gas leak episode of the reboot where they were singing. And I love the one where she sings "Take a Look at Me Now" to Liam, and Sammy's just on the phone on speaker so you can hear her. And in between, he's like, "You're a really good singer." She's like, "Thank you," and she continues to sing.
That's so funny.
But back to original Dynasty. So yeah, so then she asks Jeff for a divorce. She goes into the bathroom, I think, and he answers the phone from it's a call from the doctor confirming her abortion appointment. So now Jeff is pissed.
Which he doesn't. I don't know. Does he have a right? He has a right to be mad because she's not giving him anything, like in the relationship at all, and to find out that she's pregnant with a kid, and then she's just going to have an abortion. I'd be pissed because of the lack of communication. But he really doesn't have a right to tell her what to do about her body, though.
Yes, that's the age-old fight. Does the father have a say? It's sticky. It's really sticky.
Yeah.
I mean,
I fall on the side that it's the woman's decision. It's her body.
Yes.
But I do think that the father has a right to know that there was a baby, at least.
And she wasn't going to say anything.
No. But Jeff wasn't really a great husband either. You know, like he kind of had her up on a pedestal for the longest time, and then like all the grabbing and the tossing around and yelling at her and getting some of this, and it's just kind of like.
Listen, I'm not condoning violence against women, but like, do you see the way she treats him? He's frustrated with her.
Like divorce. Like that's the whole thing. Like divorce. Like there was never an option. Like there's not an option. There's always an option out of it. And like he wasn't the same Jeff when we first met when they're together as a married couple. He turned into a possessive, crazy person. And it's like I don't think that's a good like rep for what good parenting is going to be like, you know?
Yeah. Right.
And so
I mean,
let's
be honest. That baby's going to be raised by a nanny. It's not. They're not raising.
Yeah, right.
Yes, 100%. So, but it's a connection. You know what I mean? Like forever.
Or raised by Claudia. She's there.
So Alexis calls Blake to tell him that she found Rashid and that he's in Rome and that he must come right now, but not tell anybody what he's doing.
Because she wants control. Yep.
And Rashid leaves, and he's like, "What are you gonna do?" And she's like, "Oh, I'll figure that out when he gets here." She's like, "I always think of something." Yep. I think this was the scene where I was really hyper focused on her hair because I couldn't figure out if it was a wig.
Me too.
It was a wig.
It's a good wig.
It's a beautiful wig.
That's pretty much all I have. Do you guys have anything?
I do have a question about like really what's the motivation for Alexis to be involved in the oil deal? Is it literally just to be on Blake's good side, to get Blake a loan, to have control over his company in some way? Because she ain't trying to get with him, right? I mean, or she is. I mean, there's a lot of alluding to that a little bit.
I think she's trying to cause a rift between him and Crystal. So that's why she said, don't say anything, because, that'll cause a problem. If she gets him to come over without her, that'll cause a problem. Like, there's lots of motives that can happen for her.
Is she doing like 5 birds, 1 stone type scenario?
Well, much like you said with the whole gun situation where she didn't plan it, it just like the opportunity presented itself. I feel like that's how this is. Like, she doesn't really want to be with Blake, but if the option is presented to her and she could get the money and the power back, I feel like she'd marry him again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially if it meant like somehow being in people's lives again. Because I do think she does care about her kids a little bit, just a little.
Yeah. Like she's talking about how she used to walk like those streets in clothes like that, at night or whatever, and she and found this. I was like, "Are you trying to say that you regret cheating on Bob? Like, how dare you?" So like they were kind of alluding to that maybe like she's trying to get into the good graces to kind of be the person that Blake maybe would leave Crystal for, like you're saying, cause a rift in the relationship to, like like he's seen with her or like leaves, and then she finds out that Alexis was there.
Right. So then Alexis could go home and say to Crystal when she bumps into her, "Oh, I saw Blake in Europe," and she'll be like, "What the fuck?" You know?
Right. I was trying to figure out if I missed like a different motivation, like business related, that like she can get herself into the somehow and have like her thumb over Blake in some way, because that's what she loves to do. She loves to just have like thumb somewhere on top of something that he wants. So like he has to like comply with whatever needs demand that she happens to have at the time. You know? So I was wondering if there's something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, why bother? Like, why connect with a guy, go to Rome? Why have sex with him? Like other fun. I don't know.
So Joan Collins was in a show that we covered, like a short-lived show called Pacific Palisades, and her daughter was like this blonde California girl.
Oh.
And her mom was like, "What's with the British accent? We're from Jersey."
That's so funny, because I was thinking, like, I guess Blake must have been pretty blonde, because it feels like Fallon and Steven are all very fair-haired, and Alexis got jet black hair. Dyed, I guess. But it is dark. She has dark features. None of her DNA gets in there until like a little bit later.
Not yet.
Yeah, I know. And others. But it's confusing, because it feels more like Steven would be Crystal and Blake's kid versus Alexis Blake's kid. But DNA.
Yeah, you never know.
All right. Well, I guess we could wrap this up. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Dynasty. As always, you can find us on all the socials at Queers and Soaps. And until next time, have a great day. Bye.
Bye.